Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gents. Welcome to a new episode of the podcast حكايتي حكاية. Today, our guest is Rahim Aitbara, an Algerian currently living in and working in Kuwait. He currently works at the Kuwait American School, where he is the curriculum coordinator and head of the Department of English since 2021, right, Rahim?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
He is also a certified teacher trainer, CELTA and British Council Young Learner qualified teacher. He holds a master's degree in applied linguistics. He delivers workshops and lectures in different international and regional ELT conferences. So Abdurrahim has a long and extensive experience in teaching English as ESL, EFL, ESP in the Middle East and in North Africa, specifically in Algeria. I hear also that you are a poet and a storyteller, so you will definitely talk to me about that. I've known Abdurrahim back when he was an English project officer at the British Council in Algeria, I think between 2013 and 2016.
Yeah.
So we've had many trainings together and conferences in Algeria, in Tunisia, in Morocco. Yeah, was a great time. So he was one of the organizers of two of the biggest, I think, conferences in Algeria in English language teaching. The first back in 2013 and the second in 2016. So we've had two international English language teaching conferences in Oran. These were very big. So he's here today to talk to us about his wonderful career, both national and international, in English language teaching, development, and management, because you've had many managerial roles, Abdurrahim, so you can talk about that. So how are you, Abdurrahim?
I'm doing really great.
Thank you for doing this. What time is it now in Kuwait?
The time now is 5:45, which is 5:45.
Okay. So you live in the capital, right? Or
Well, the whole Kuwait is one city. It's a small city. The whole country is one city. Yeah,
is
but
one
I
city?
just nearby Kuwait City, which is Salmiya, which is another city, big city, just nearby Kuwait City.
Nearby. Okay. So we were talking before we started the recording about the weather, that it is very hot there. I think it's one of the hottest places in the world, but well, Wirgula too, sometimes, especially in July and in August, it ranks, our city, Wirgula, where I live, it ranks in the top 10. So how's the weather there? Is it really, really hot?
Very true. Kuwait is one of the hottest spots in the world. It reaches 70 degrees in the Sahara and the sun, and it reaches up to 55.
You mean Celsius?
Yes,
70.
in the
Wow.
50 shades. And what makes it worse is not just the heat, is the humidity. For example, now almost I spent about 2 days. I did not go out, spending the time at home, only for necessary things that I go and drive somewhere to a mall or go to shopping or whatever. But really, really, really difficult to walk. Go to the beach. I mean, yeah, the weather is really, really hot, plus humid. The level of humidity is very, very high.
Yeah, it's the humidity. Like here in Wirgla, what's good is that it's not humid.
Yes, dry.
It's very, very dry, so you don't sweat a lot. No problem there. And is it hot all year long, or is it hot especially during the summer?
Well, we have almost a 9-month summer, and we have
9
about
months.
Yeah,
Wow.
3 spring. So our winter, for example, that starts by the end, like mid-December up to February, which is somehow a spring in Algeria. It is not
Yeah,
real,
spring.
real winter. And then after March, the heat hits, and yeah, the summer starts. So yeah,
Yeah. So it's very close to Iraq, and I know also that Iraq is very, very hot, especially Baghdad. Do you have frequent sandstorms there? Because I
yeah,
see that like Baghdad is hit all the time, especially in March, April, which is the same time when we are hit also here in Wergla with sandstorms. But is it are they frequent there in
yeah,
Kuwait City?
very, very, and quite often because
Mm,
it hits from Baghdad. It reaches us in 10 minutes.
mm, mm,
So immediately, and it is the same sandstorm that goes all the way from Baghdad, from Iraq to Dubai. So
mm,
when it us, so Dubai, they wait for it after 2 hours.
mm,
So line, it's the same line that goes from Iraq to Dubai. And yes, as you said, it's March, April, May, and it goes a bit worse. Somehow in June, and as well by the end of September.
mm. Okay. Well, have you accommodated to all of this, or it has taken a bit of time and now you are fine?
Oh well, it took some time to adapt myself in the region, but now yeah, we have to. I mean, human beings adapt to any place, any circumstances they live in. Probably it takes time, and it's different from one person to another person.
Sure.
But it took me a couple of months, so let's say a year, to be able to understand the region and to be able to cope with all the circumstances.
Sure. And when you were here in Algeria, did you visit the Algerian South? You did, right? I think we met
Yes,
here in Wergla. We did we?
yes,
I'm not
yeah.
sure. I don't
Um,
remember.
Orgla a couple of times, about 4 or 5 times, when I had training of inspectors with the Ministry of National Education, with
Hmm.
the council in Orgla. And it was really amazing. I went to the golden dunes and all this.
Yeah,
The Algerian Sahara is completely different from the
it's
Sahara here.
different. Is it?
Yeah,
Is it different? Yeah. Okay.
different and different landscape. You don't see the dunes here. It's a flat land here.
Hmm. Hmm.
Different heat. Yeah, but each place has its own
Sure.
beauty.
And I think that we'll talk about this probably a bit later on. You've had some experience teaching in Saudi Arabia. Was that transition something that helped you a little bit adapt to the Kuwaiti weather and the experience in Saudi Arabia? Did that help a little bit?
Yeah, somehow let's say like a 40%.
Yeah.
The Saudi Arabia experience, it was for 1 year, and
Uh-huh.
that was introduction, or like welcoming me in
Hmm.
the understand, yes, to understand the region, the mentality, the people, and it was my first international experience. So yeah, it helped me somehow, but after Saudi Arabia moving to Kuwait, it was very hard for me in the beginning to cope. But yeah, we have to see the bright side from each. Um, it,
Experience.
yes, an experience, and we have to turn every difficulty into an
Sure.
opportunity.
Sure,
Uh,
sure. We will probably talk. Mhm. We'll probably talk more a bit about this a bit later on. But let me start from the beginning. And can you talk to me a little bit about your education at the university? So you studied English, I think, at the University of Blida. When
yeah,
did
very
you
true.
graduate?
Yes, I got my baccalaureate exam back in 2008, and
Hmm.
then I was thriving to the translation. but I could not make it. So, and at the end, I ended up in the English department, and I had 4 years of BA, classical system,
Classical system. All right.
at Blida University, Blida 1. And then they moved us to Al Afron University, which is Blida 2.
Mm-hmm.
Where I had my master's, though I was a classical system, but I was among the first 10
So
top
you were
list
admitted
of the
the
classical
masters.
system. Then they took us immediately to the classical system, to the masters.
Master.
I had my master's, so I got my BA in 2012, and then I graduated from my master's in 2014.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
And you specialized in the master's linguistics?
linguistics, yes, linguistics, applied linguistics,
That's
didactics. My thesis was about the helping students with hearing impairments, impaired learners, English using a voice recognition software through using Google,
nice.
Microsoft applications to help teachers and students who are having hearing impairment to learn English better in the classroom. So that was my specialty, because I do really love teaching kids and dealing with kids. So I wanted to come up with something to help kids with hearing impairments. As you know, in Algeria, it is a mainstream. There's no education. So we can find, and through my visits to schools when I was at British Council with inspectors, we went to schools where we find completely blind students in the classroom, hearing impaired learners in the classroom. And then whenever we ask teachers, do you accommodate, do you find ways on how to help? The answer was always a no. We're using we're using the same tools to everyone as normal. And that really broke my heart.
Sure.
And it was always a dream to come up with something to help these struggling students to be able to reach and achieve what a normal student can achieve in the classroom.
Sure. That's great. And you graduated in 2014, so it was at the same time as you were working at the British Council, right? So how
Yes.
was this? You were like juggling two tasks at the same time. I know that your work at the British Council, you were very active back at that time. So how was, because I talked to many teachers in this podcast, and most of them English language teachers, and many of them talk about their experience in studying and at the same time working or teaching. So what were your duties while you were studying at the university? They were as an officer at the British Council and also a teacher?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when you speak about, I got a water in eyes, because whenever I remember that time, those years, from 2012 to 2016 was the toughest years ever I had in my life. A time where I was trying to gather experience as much as I can. From 2016 to 2016, I used to see my mother and my family once a week.
Once a week.
Once a week. At that time, I was not just doing my master's full time at British Council, plus my Saturdays, I was a part-time teacher at UNS Buzaria, teaching.
You were at Buzaria?
Yes, for 2 years. Yes. So,
Oh my
and
God.
one of linguistics, teacher of linguistics at Blida University in 2012. So after graduation, it's time to gather experience.
Sure.
So I used to study 2.5 days at the university for masters. My Saturdays was at ENS, and the other time is full time at British Council. I would like to thank British Council, and at that time the country director, Martin Daltrey, who really was
Mm.
support, who gave me the 2.5 days on a Sunday and a Tuesday to go to the university, and that time is taken from my annual leave. So instead of
Mm.
having 1 month a year, so I was taking that by hour. It was
Oh.
really right idea from him. So he wanted to support me to do my masters, not losing my job, and at the
Mm.
same time experience. So it was a hectic time for me. So I used to see my family once a week only, on Fridays. That was my sacred time for my family. So, but it was tough, but it was enjoyable. And then after a few years, and then I realized how important that time was to me,
So
because
how important was that to have this experience where you were juggling many different things and you were well, that needs a lot of different sacrifices, I assume. But how did that tough experience help you later on? Yeah.
So the worry that I had that time is, anyone they are asked, any fresh graduates, they always fall in a gap of a few years after graduation and there is no work. So
Hmm.
I don't want to fall in that gap, which is
No.
losing is just sitting at home or doing nothing. So I
Hmm.
want to cover that gap as much as I can, because for me now in my CV, though it is, for example, a 10 years only, but in experience, when you count, you would find it about 14 years, because
Hmm.
those are doubled, because it is counted 1 year experience at UNS Busaria, 1 year at British Council. So it is a 2 years in 1 year. So
Yeah.
as an experience counted, so I have the years of experience of work is more than the years I lived.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
So that's
So
what.
especially in the rhythm that you were going at.
Yes, so now I gained about 3 years of experience beyond my age.
Hmm.
So, and that what helped me hit the international standards and
Hmm.
reach the gaining. I mean, at a very early age, but having enough experience to compete at the international level.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's tough, but um, if you don't sacrifice, you cannot reach where you want to do. So yeah, it was one of the most beautiful times as well that time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember those times. I used to meet you, I don't know, like perhaps once a year between 2013 and 2016, and I've seen you working very active. There were many and tremendous opportunities, and you seized up on all of them. And what I want to ask you perhaps is go back a little bit to your experience now with English itself. So, how did you have this interest in English before coming to interest in teaching English, but in English itself? So, what's your story with English? Was it love at first sight, or was it like something that you have because I see that you've done that at the university, then you worked in at the British Council, then the rest of your career is in the English language field. So what's your story with English?
Well, English, as you said, it is a first sight love.
Oh, okay.
Back to middle school, I had a teacher who I till now I still in contact. Until
Oh,
now, on
that's
holiday
good.
to Algeria, I traveled 300 kilometers to see my old teacher, to
Oh,
see my
nice.
teacher. She was such an amazing teacher, and I always believe that teachers change lives.
Yes,
Teachers change lives. So
I believe that too.
you either trigger the beautiful thing in the students, or you kill that student. So one of the
Sure.
two.
And how do you think this
Um,
teacher
I love.
particularly
She
triggered
was
everything
a
in
mother.
you?
She was a mother to me more than a teacher. She
Mm-hmm.
made me love English. She
Mm-hmm.
supported me a lot. And then from that, I loved English, but it was always, it was never an idea that one day I would be specialized in English. And then
Mm-hmm.
in high school as well, I had a very nice teacher as well who
Mm.
loved so much, and I love her so much till death. And after having my baccalaureate exam, I wanted to do translation, but I could not make it. So I said the second option is English. So let's go to English. So, and I was specialized in languages.
Mm-hmm.
So apart from my two mother tongues, Berber and Arabic, so I said it French, English, and Spanish. So these are
Mm.
the languages that I was working on. And when I went to the university, I did not have a very nice English accent.
Mm.
Things turned into the other way around. So when I was in my first year at the university, I had my speaking skills teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you are a university teacher, and sometimes you have those students who always like to participate, who would like
Sure.
always answer. They are always the first to raise their hands, even though they don't have a beautiful English, but they always want to speak.
Yeah.
I was that student who was always active in the classroom, but my English does not sound British, does not sound American, does not sound any other English, but it is an Algerian English.
Yeah, it's you. I always say to my students, it's
So
you. It's just you.
I had no idea, no clue what a British accent is or what an American accent is. And then one day in an oral session, the teacher stopped me and she said, I don't want to hear you anymore in my class. Go improve your English and then speak in my classroom. She
Mm.
asked me in front of everybody. But guess what? That did not kill me.
Yeah, that's good.
That did not kill me. The thing that doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
oh, well, a real teacher should not say that.
Not never.
Okay. But that was a push. So then I realized that I started digging deeper what the proper English is.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I started working on my English on my own, at home, facing the mirror, trying to hear the right pronunciation of words, watching English channels, and that was 2010, 11, and then I had the chance to go to British Council after that and meeting native speakers, and then I working at British Council. So that was the transition from my horrible English
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
into a standardized English or and a British somehow alike accent. So this was my story on how improving my English. And then yes, and after that, working 8 hours a day only in English, only with the native speakers, dealing with native speakers, writing English all the time, all the phone, all the time in English. So that's automatically like I was immersed in the,
Sure, sure, sure,
you see what I
sure.
mean? Then English becomes a daily language and becomes my first language even in thinking. So I
Mm-hmm.
think everything English. So yes, so this was my story to English, and I love English because, to be honest, I worked hard on my English. I really worked hard on my English.
Yeah.
So because I love it. If I don't love it or if I did not love it, I wouldn't have worked hard on that.
And how they did that? Now, I want to transition here from learning English, specialized in English at the university, working at the British Council, which is basically an organization for the promotion of the English language. How did all of that introduce you to the world of teaching English? So you said you were first a teacher at ENS or at Blida?
Did the university first
At
as
Blida
a
University. So was it part of like, for me, for example, back at the time when I had when I graduated with the licence, like teaching was not my dream. I was even at some point against being a teacher, but for some time I said, okay, as you were saying earlier, one has to gain experience job experience, of course. So I'm not just going to um, stay without a job, unemployed, and at the same time I was a student. But I said, okay, it's time to work, and it's time to perhaps um, try to be, or what it is like to be a teacher. So how was it for you, the beginning of teaching, and how did you go into that until now? It has become your profession. You are a professional teacher now.
Very true. I believe that teaching is a gift. So if you feel it is something that comes within. So I always believe that I am able to teach, but it was never my first choice
Yeah,
to go to teach. But when I had my master's, it was applied linguistics, which is didactics, which is teaching.
sure.
So teach. So all the theories you have to put them into practice to be
Mm-hmm.
able those theories and those techniques and those teaching strategies and all the stuff. So we can't just have that in theory. So
Sure.
even council, when the teaching center opened, I I did not. I was working on project, and I love working on project. I love project. I love planning. I love like working on strategy plans, on
Mm-hmm.
project, on realizing, on moving, on you see what I mean? So I'm more into projects. So I never thought that I'll go to teaching, but I had to teach at the university just to put all the theories that I learned into practice. And then my dream that time was to be an international expert in the English language.
Mm.
But you cannot be an international expert in the English language without going through all the phases and seeing all the 6 faces of the cube.
Sure.
You cannot be an international expert by being just a teacher in Algeria,
Yeah. Yeah.
EFL. I cannot be an international expert, just being in the Gulf, which is an ESL. I cannot be
Mm-hmm.
an expert. I'm teaching in the UK as an L1.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot be just working on projects. So I said I have to pick a flower from each garden to have a
Sure.
nice combination of it. And this is what I would like to advise from this window.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who will be listening to us to understand that you cannot succeed in the field where you are if you don't surround yourself with a large base. Eiffel Tower, it's huge and tremendous at the base, and it is very pointed at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Khalifa Tower is the same. The larger your base is, the further higher you can go.
You can go. That's a wonderful metaphor.
You see what I mean? So
Mm.
I cannot reach higher in the
Mm-hmm.
English without being able to see all the different sides. So I had my master's in special education.
Mm.
I worked on English projects. I'll tell you why all this happening now today.
Sure, sure. And this is what we want. We want you
Yes,
to talk about how those formative years are important now in your professional life now.
there are puzzle pieces. There
Mm-hmm.
are pieces that now where I reach it now. So I worked on English projects. So I'm managing finances there. They give you a budget. How can you reach that budget? How can you plan that project? Algeria is huge. It's like a continent. So which wilayas, which people you have to contact, networking. So
Mm-hmm.
all these soft skills are there. And then I had my CELTA, which is teaching English for adults.
Mm.
After that, I had my British Council Young Learner Certification, which is the
Mm.
other stream of CELTA for adults. So the other certification is for young learners. So I I had my master's in special education. I worked on English projects. I know how to teach adults, and I know how to teach young learners. And now I have all the main areas covered. So I saw that. I dealt with British experts who used to come to Algeria, and I had hours and hours of discussions with them. And I
Mm.
went to and I saw how English is taught in an English in an English setting. So as an
Mm.
L1. I taught in Algeria, and I know how English is taught as an EFL.
Mm.
Then I said, now enough. I need to see English as an ESL.
Mm.
And what pushed me to go to Saudi Arabia? So every step that I took in my life was planned.
Yeah.
It was like by coincidence or by chance. Everything that I did in my life was planned, ticking a checklist. It is a checklist.
Mm.
So, and then I got 4 years of experience at that time in Algeria in working on English projects, international conferences, planning. Fine for that. I had 3 years of experience teaching English as an EFL in Algeria. I had enough knowledge about L1 in the UK. I said it's time now to leave, to pack my suitcase and go to the Middle East.
We'll come to that, to your decision to immigrate. But before that, right before that, um, can you talk to me about your trainings? That is, you talked about the CELTA, about the your trainings, of course, at the university, but you also talked about your trainings post-university, that is, as a professional. How important are those to any English language teacher who wants to become a professional? Because the problem that we see now in Algeria is that we have a lot of like theoretical training at the university, but that's not usually followed up by professional training. And of course, together, me and you, we've had many CPD trainings with Simon Borg, for example, etc. So those were, I mean, for me and for all the participants back at that time, very critical to our professional development. But can you talk a little bit about that? And not only from your experience, but from how you have seen professional development changing the career of teachers?
I can sum up that all of this in one example.
Mm-hmm.
A fresh graduate, like an English teacher who's graduating from university, is like a smartphone, having all those theories as applications.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how can a smartphone survive for years without any update of the applications?
Sure.
If you don't update those applications after 1 year, they will expire. They will be blocked. They will not work. They will not function. It's the same thing. So if someone thinks that I'm graduating from the university as an English teacher, boom, I don't need to learn anymore. I know everything I can go. You can only survive the first year. Life is changing. The education field is changing every single month.
Every single month, yes.
There is something new. There is a new curriculum. There is a new strategy. There is a new theory. There is a new technique. There is a new strategy. It's a very quick field in changing. So CPD for me, it's a must. Till now, a minimum of 3 trainings per year I do. Till now. I'm not counting conferences and webinars. I'm not counting that. That's endless. But for any professional training, at least 3 times per year.
And what would you say to a lot of perhaps English language graduates who have graduated for a year now or 6 months or more, who are listening to this and saying, yeah, I would like to have trainings, but they are not available? What would you say to them from your experience at the British Council, at many different organizations, your international experience? What would you say to that?
Very good question, because I know the word training for them is a physical training, that I go to a room where there is a trainer, he's going to train us. The word professional development, not necessarily a physical training, you move to a place. Professional training can be done in too many ways. If you are a teacher in a school, you can have a peer observation. Call your class, your
Mm,
colleagues, observe you, and then discuss. Go observe someone else and discuss. That's training.
definitely, definitely.
That's it. Professional development. Webinars. There are plenty of free webinars
Yes.
on YouTube, on internet. There are platforms for that. Conferences. There are conferences you can pay for. There are conferences for free as well. It is the same thing. Reading. Read experiences. Read experiences. Google it. Watch videos. Watch live sessions. Now with the internet, nothing is closed. Everything is
Mm.
open now. Access to
Nothing is
every.
out of reach.
Yes. Compare, for example, today I'm going to compare three classes. A
Mm.
class in a class in China, and a class, for example, in Angola. Okay, and you can do that even on YouTube. Okay, grammar lesson, grammar lesson, grammar lesson. I'm going to take notes. What am I observing? The way the three different teachers are delivering the same lesson in different three contexts, in three different L1, ESL, EFL, and will give me an idea. And then I'm going to share that with my colleagues or apply them in the classroom. So there are
Mm.
plenty of ways, not necessarily that I need to go to the UK in order to do a training.
Yeah, that's the
Necessarily.
image, that's the stereotype that people generally have. They say, well, you are like, for me, sometimes they say to me, well, you went to the United States or to Britain or to that, so you can talk about trainings. I said, no, I didn't start with that. It didn't start actually. That came way later on. It started with, as you are saying, observing perhaps a colleague's class, watching videos, reading books about the practice of teaching English. It really started with that. Then you would have, in the course of all of this, perhaps you would have opportunities. It's very important to seize those opportunities. Of course, definitely. Yeah.
True, true, very, very true. I mean, for those physical trainings, I usually have once a year, once
Yeah.
a year. But other trainings, I told you, any opportunity I seize. I
Hmm.
either for free, either I pay for. But I go like during COVID, 2 years we were stuck at home, but it did not stop me. During COVID, and I
Hmm.
delivered an online workshop at IATF conference.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Going to the UK, even if it is online, I set my proposal and I delivered my workshop online from
Yeah. Yeah.
home.
Yeah. Sure.
So
Sure.
you see, the concept of training is don't stop learning.
Hmm. Hmm.
Don't stop learning.
That's
Try,
definitely an important mindset, I think. It's
yes.
very important.
Otherwise, you will be staying way behind.
Mm.
Be able to cope what an international level is at now.
Mm. And
So,
before I come, of course, I'm coming to right after this to my question about your decision to immigrate. How did that is this mindset of constant learning, this of constant or continuous professional development, how do you think this helped you progressing in your professional career when you had, for example, job interviews, when you were applying for positions outside of Algeria or even perhaps in Algeria? How do you think that this argument or this mindset helped you convince your employers or to progress in your professional career?
very good question because before going to that, I had a training, professional training on how to be an interviewer.
Mm.
So, how to interview people, how to accept people, how to
Oh.
shortlist people, how to read a CV. So, up in that, I built up my own CV on what the interviewer would love to see
To
me
see.
talk.
So,
So,
what would an interviewer like to see? This is
yes,
a very important tip for people listening.
passion, different podcast. But like, for example, I'll give you an example. I have been interviewing and recruiting teachers
Mm-hmm.
worldwide here in Kuwait for more than 4 years now.
Mm.
I'm the head of the English department, so I'm recruiting for my department English teachers, native
Sure.
from all over places and all over. For me, I will recruit a teacher with less experience but shows the potential of learning, then a teacher who has tremendous experience but is still stuck to the yellow paper in his suitcase.
Sure. Sure. Definitely.
Because what I want for my institute, what I want for my department, I need a fresh spirit who is able to promote, who is able to come up with new ideas and learn and grow.
Mm.
I don't need someone who comes with 20, 30, 40 years of experience and drags me back to the 80s teaching.
Sure. And how do you, when you are interviewing someone, how do you spot that? How do you spot that potential? It's not easy to do that. Of course, you are trained to do that, but we don't want you to tell us your secret because you are an interviewer, and some people might watch this
Sure.
and get the secret behind how to get recruited by Abdurrahim. But in a nutshell, really, how do how do you spot that light shining in the eyes of this young gentleman or lady who is of interest to you?
Before that interview, before even I see the person, the CV plays in 80%.
Mm.
There are great teachers, but they don't know how to write their CVs. I can read the CV in 20 seconds only.
Mm.
I looked at a CV 20 seconds, no more. In those 20 seconds, I can determine whether the CV is worth shortlisting or not.
Mm. And what is there that is worth shortlisting?
Look at. There are some calculations that I do. I need to look at the years of graduation, of experience, of transition.
Mm.
Don't mind to put in a CV that I graduated this year and then I worked as a waiter in a restaurant for 1 year. I don't mind.
Yeah.
That tells me that a person who already hit the work, you did not wait.
Mm.
You have the work. Working as a waiter after graduating as an English teacher because you did not find a job is better for me in a CV than saying I graduated in 2015 and I worked as an English teacher in 2021. What did you do in those 4 years?
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. That tells a lot about a person.
That tells me that's example in my department. So if in my department, if I don't give you a work to do, then you will not do the work. You will not come up with something to do.
Yeah, sure. Sure. That tells a lot about the personality.
Kind of mirroring how you can read the CV.
Yeah.
So in here, I can, and as well, there are lots of other, and how the CV is suit. So it's very important. The thread, following the thread, of what type of training you had. How did you link? Did you do the training because you are aware of the training, or you just feeling your CV? So
Yeah.
you see what I mean? So, and as well in the interview, asking, when you ask the questions, someone who gives you concrete examples, always in an interview, never give abstract answers. Always give a concrete example. Give a concrete example. Come up with a concrete example that shows me that you understand what you're doing. Okay. And if you don't have experience in that for that question, tell me, what would you do if you are put in a situation?
Yeah.
So not necessarily all the interview questions you have an answer for, not necessary. And I'm not waiting for you to give me a real example that happened to you. But I would love, within the interview, to tell me, well, I've never had such case, but I presume that I would do this and this and this and that.
In that particular situation.
That's how aware you are. I mean, so there are a lot of other secrets on how to look at and how to find the answers and all the tricky questions in the interview. So yeah, so it is a long other things to speak about. But yes, so that's why I remember when I told you about my experience, how I planned my career, like 4 years of training, management. I need this and I need that. So you have to be aware of what pieces you need to collect in your
Mm,
basket. It's a bouquet of flowers. Which
sure.
flower do you want to put to your combination?
Yeah. And what you want to spot or to discover in the person in front of you, the interviewee, is to really spot that potential that they
Yes.
have, that within a certain environment that your department or your organization is going to provide is going to like unleash the best in them. And that I think is something very important. So let's move now to your career, um, international career. So the decision to immigrate is not an easy one usually. That doesn't mean that it is difficult. I mean that is not an easy one because you have to make many different calculations. You are perhaps taking a risk, and many young Algerians, of course, are confronted with that question of immigration. So, how did Abderrahim deal with this question, and how did you finally decide to do the first step towards that?
Well, I always believe that a frog in a well will never know the big oceans.
Mm,
Want to know the big oceans, you have to leave that well. You have to leave your shell. This is number one. Plus, if someone has a long vision of after 10 years, what's your vision for 10 years? What's your vision for 5 years? What's your vision for 30 years?
mm,
And what is the steps that you need to have now to reach those visions? It's very important. Living day by day will not help you to make this huge change or this huge transition. I reached a point where I'm not gaining anything new.
mm,
I reached where I reached. I ticked all the boxes for now. What comes next? This is the question. Being aware of what comes next. What comes next is somewhere else.
mm,
But in sense of leaving everything behind you. And it is a risk taking.
mm.
If you risk, you will never succeed. And I'm not afraid of failure because I know failure is one of the steps of success.
Sure.
Failure is not opposite of success, but it is part of the success. And I failed and I failed and I failed. And I took risks and lots of risks. I lost money, I was kidnapped, and a lot of things happened to me in my life.
Oh my God,
But
kidnapped.
huge words, huge things happened to me.
Oh,
But not stop me. And thanks to those things that made me reach where I am now.
sure.
Don't take those risks. You can never reach what you want to do. So I decided to leave Algeria. Before deciding to leave Algeria, one of the boxes that was assigned in my checklist is PhD.
Mm,
So I decided to do my PhD in Algeria, and then I had the PhD contest in 3 places in Algeria, but unfortunately I can't even see my name in the list
mm,
or even on the waiting list.
mm,
Fine, fair enough. That does not stop me. That does not kill me. Probably I said it is something good. It is a
mhm,
sign, something different. I remember one day I stayed, and I always have my mindful moments. This is a secret. I always have my mindful moments for kind of half an hour. It's always before I sleep, which is at midnight.
Mm.
Before I always have that mindful moment where I sit with myself and I try to reason, go back, analyze, and plan. So one night I decided to leave, literally, and trust me. I opened my laptop at midnight. And before that, I told you I made my CV to reach the international standards. So I know how an international, what kind of keywords, how to write it. And I was lucky because I know friends, professors in the universities and experts. And so what I did is I sent my CV for proofreading.
Mm.
How a professor in Doha University, for example, would look like to see my CV.
Mm.
And I sent it to different places. I sent it to a professor in Doha University. I sent it to a friend in Cambridge University, and I sent it to a friend in Algeria, Professor Diana. So I wanted to see the different comments about my CV, and literally I took that. So I was ready that my CV now is ready to be sent. I opened my laptop. I made search. And I was that time on a website called www.seriousteachers.com, which is an international website for teachers for recruitment. I had a profile there, but I never thought that I would send my CV on that website. So that night I said, okay, let me open this website and see what kind of job opportunities are there. And then it says upload your CV and then share it, and then employers will see if they are interested. They will contact you.
Mm.
Okay, I said, okay, let me upload my CV, and that's it. I uploaded my CV and I switched off my laptop. I went to sleep. I woke up at 7 a.m. in the morning. I went to my office. I went to work. I opened my personal email and I found an email written
This is
in
the next morning.
the next morning.
Mm.
I received an email written in red. I've never received an email written in red,
Uh-huh.
bold. It says, we received your CV. Are you able to join us in 15 days?
Whoa.
Boom.
Whoa.
It's an recruitment. It's an immediate recruitment.
Mm.
And that was in November. It was like kind of a weird to be recruited in November, but it's an immediate recruitment. I sent back to that email. I don't know whether it is fake. I don't know whether it is serious. I don't know whether it is a kind of a gang or a terrorist email. God knows what that is. All those ideas came to up in my mind, and no one
Sure.
knows. No
Mm.
one knows. It's kind of like throwing a cat in a room full of pigeon in my head. Boom. And then I said, okay, hold on. I took a moment. I replied to that email nicely, and I said, thank you so much for your reply, but I need to know more about your institution. An immediate reply saying, please can you send us your phone number so we can have a phone interview.
Oh, that's more
Boom.
serious.
That more getting it serious now, because they said send us your document. I said no, I can't send you my document. Please, I need to know how. I sent because he said I don't have much time. Please, can you send me your phone number? I sent him a phone number, and they phoned me at 8 Algeria time, which is 10 Saudi time.
Mm.
Hello, how are you? Blah blah. The interview started. He said, I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry, but I need to cut it short. But I'm going to ask you just a few questions. I looked at the few questions he asked me about.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you working? Okay. And the only question he asked me, and he ended the interview, is he said, how come you are going to end up an indefinite contract that you're working in Algeria with your family and moving to Saudi Arabia for a 4-month contract?
Yeah.
How can you do that?
That's an important question.
That's an important question.
Yeah.
And then my answer was, I said, do you guarantee me a longer life than 4 months?
Yeah.
He said, no one guarantees. I said that I'm not afraid of the future, but I see the opportunity that is next to me now. I will not let the worry of the future or after 4 months stop me from grabbing the opportunity that is next to me right now.
Ah.
I grab the opportunity of that is next to me right now. After 4 months, there will be plenty of other
Yeah,
opportunities.
sure. That was
So,
that was a
so
very thoughtful answer.
don't let the worry of the future stop you from doing beautiful things now.
Mm.
So I said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yes, I can take it." After 4 months, there is another future. After 4 months. So I have to grab this opportunity. I said, okay, so I'm going to end now the phone call. Thank you so much for your answer. And then he sent me, and plus other questions for the interview, but it took me about kind of 20 minutes, half an hour. And then he sent me the contract. When I looked at the contract, he said, please, can you sign it and send it back? So just to cut
What
it
was the
short,
position?
so
What was the position?
it was the position was the English instructor in an oil and gas company.
Oh, okay. So
So
this was a company, this was an oil company?
it is an oil company, Saudi Petroleum Services Polytechnic,
Okay.
oil and gas engineers.
Uh-huh.
I want to is how come you are going to teach technical English while you have zero experience of technical English?
Yeah.
And I told him, yes, as any recipe for any cake, if you have never made that cake, does not mean you will not be able to do it.
Yeah,
Give
sure.
me the right recipe and I'll do it. So this is the same thing. So I said, I have the English, but technical English, I'm able to teach technical English. All what I need is, I know it is difficult for me, but I need to catch up. I need to read. That is
Sure.
not and I still have time, so I can read more about technical English. So he said, okay, no problem, we will give you a chance. So the 4 months was a chance to see whether I'm able to teach or not.
But right before that, uh, right before the 4 months, and you went to Saudi Arabia, can you talk briefly about how did you leave everything? You were at the British consul at that time?
I was at the British Council at that time.
So you had to like resign, you had to leave everything and go to Saudi Arabia, right?
Everything happened in a winkle of an eye.
And so how, because I'm really interested in that intense moment in which anybody has to make the leap. And it's basically, as you were saying and explaining, the leap into the unknown. So can you briefly talk to me about that moment in which you leap into the unknown and say, okay, here's my resignation. Let me pack everything and let's
Very
go.
true. Because the problem is that I was not going to Saudi Arabia directly because I had to go through Bahrain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I had to go through Bahrain. And at that time was very intense as well because I had to leave the country anyways for private reasons. Okay, so I had to leave Algeria anyways in those times.
Mm.
So it was like kind of, it's the right time for the right time to leave.
Ah, okay, I see.
Okay, so I had to leave the country because if I did not leave the country that time, I would have stuck in Algeria forever.
Mm.
To leave. So it is the right time of the right time. So no one knows about this. And even after signing my contract and sending my passport copy and everything, then I took a phone and I spoke to my elder brother.
Mm.
And I spoke to my elder. I said, listen, I got a job opportunity in Saudi Arabia. His answer was directly, it's a no. You will not go.
Mm.
And he said, okay, fine. Thank you. And he ended the call. And I
This is
spoke to
your elder brother?
yes, and I spoke to my father. He said, there is no way. They are not serious. There is no way that someone recruits you in a day, overnight. It's not, I can't see it serious. It's really dangerous. You cannot just to go to a country that you don't know. They were all against. My mother was a no, 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 no.
No,
So then now I had another, okay, for British Council, I sent my resignation letter because they know my situation and they know that they were very comprehensive. So I had everything in 1 week, literally in 1 week. Handover all my projects, handing over my project to someone else. It was like quick. Okay. And all my budgets and everything that handed over. But the big problem was now convincing my family to be able, because I am the youngest in the family.
Oh, I see now. And especially for your mother, she's like, this is a no-no.
And we are 10 siblings. We are 10 siblings. We are a
10.
big family.
Allah يبارك.
So we are 10 siblings. So I'm I'm the 8th, but there are 2 other ones after me. But I'm the youngest boy. So it was a no. There's no way we would go. But it was another challenge for me now to convince them that it is serious and I am going. So finally, I could make it. And I flew to Bahrain and I stayed 3 days in Bahrain. Then that company to arrange all the visas and all the stuff to be able to enter Saudi Arabia. And then I stayed in Saudi Arabia for 4 months. And then after the end of my contract, I received an email saying, thank you so much. And we are very happy to extend your contract with us, please, if you don't mind. And that was I for a year contract. And then after that, I decided to leave the country because I said it's enough. 1 year experience as a technical English in that company, it's fine. Now I'm looking because I have experience now in teaching at the university. I have experience in teaching in private institutes. I have experience in teaching technical English. No, what I need now is ticking the box now of I need to know how English is taught in an international school in primary, middle, and high school. And again, sending my CVs. One day I received an email from a school saying, we are very interested in your CV. Please, we would like to have an interview with you. And in my head, and I came to Kuwait by mistake, by the way. By mistake. I've never planned to come to Kuwait. Never in my life. It was
by
never
mistake.
in my...
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it was never in my radar. I wanted to go to Qatar. So I in Qatar, and when I received the email, in my understanding, it's a school in Qatar. They said for interview. I said, yeah, let's go for an interview. An interview for an English teacher for high school English teacher. And then the interview was, I had an interview by 3 ladies, one a Pakistani lady, another with a South African lady, and another British lady. They are all school principals. So I had a very nice chat, a very nice interview. It was more a discussion than an interview because I panicked. It was kind of lot of things we shared. After that interview, I received an email saying, thank you for the interview, but after the interview, the committee decides to hire you, to give you a position of head of English department, Northern English teacher.
Whoa.
So I was interviewed for English teacher, boom. And then I said, okay, but how come is that? They said, and then I received the whole feedback from the principals. Because they asked me, as I told you, I know how to answer the questions for the interview.
Yeah.
Beyond the question, how to twist questions, how to get smart answers for the interview. So they were impressed, and then they said, we would like you as a head of English department. Why? Thanks to the 4 years of project management at British Council.
Oh my God, yeah. So it goes back to your experience at the British Council. Yeah.
Because as you are able to manage a project, you are able to manage it.
Yeah.
And not any teacher can be a manager.
No.
So having skills together, being able to manage a team and being able to teach that gave me, you see, the two different experiences that I gathered in two different places, put them together, gave me the chance of head of English department.
Yeah. And here you, before your eyes, and as people are listening and watching, we can see before our eyes how things really come together, as you were talking earlier about this puzzle. And sometimes you, especially in your formative years or just when you graduate, sometimes you should not ask a lot of questions of why you are doing something. Sometimes
Yes.
you just have to do it because you refuse to be unemployed, or you refuse to stay without any kind of experience. You just do it. And sometime in the future, that particular experience will come in handy. So as you are given this narrative, it's very obvious how everything, as you were saying earlier, how the puzzle comes together. And definitely it's perhaps still evolving and still coming together, as your professional career, inshallah, will flourish more in the future. So this school that they recruited you as head of the department, so was in Kuwait.
Yes, in
So,
Kuwait.
so how did you know about? Then you said at the beginning you thought that this is in Qatar, but then you
Yes.
said, "Oh,
Yeah.
how did that come about?"
And then when they sent me the contract, then I
Uh
read the
huh.
address. I found it is Kuwait. I thought it is Qatar.
Uh huh. Okay.
And then they sent back an email and they said, "Where are you based, guys?" They said, "Kuwait." And I said, "But I never applied for Kuwait." They said, "We received your CV." But I said, "I never sent my CV to any school in Kuwait."
So how did that happen?
How did that happen? God knows how did that happen.
Okay, that's fate.
God
That's fate.
knows.
Just fate.
And they said, "So it is meant to happen, so let it to happen."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure.
Okay, but okay, let's go. And but the challenge was head of English department for an American system for the Common Core State Standards curriculum that I have no clue about.
Mm.
All my education is a French system. Going to British Council, which is all the British system.
Mm-hmm.
Going to Saudi, teaching with Oxford curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
and then jumping into a Common Core State Standards, which is completely different curriculum.
Yeah. So another leap into the unknown, in fact.
Another unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the questions in the interview, because they asked me, "Are you aware?" Because before I always like to make research before the interview. So what kind of school? So I know that they are using American curriculum. So I had some readings about Common Core State Standards, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. So when they asked me, "Are you aware? Do you have any experience in American curriculum?" I said, "To be honest, no." And by the way, this is an advice for someone for the interview. When you don't have the answer, you don't be honest. Say no.
Mm.
But I am willing to learn more about it.
Yeah.
You don't have, but show me the potential that you are able to do it.
Yeah. Express that willingness to learn and show the potential.
Yeah, show me the potential instead of giving me a wrong answer. So
Mm.
don't lie. So yes, I have no experience,
Sure.
but I am willing to do. Okay, perfect. So that's another answer. So when I joined the school in February 2018, and that was a big challenge. They said you either join in the middle of the year or you wait till September for the new year. I said, no, I will join in the middle of the year. But it's a big challenging. One of the worst things is joining any institution in the middle of the
In
year
the middle of the year. Yeah. This is
because
like you. Yeah.
it's hell.
Yeah. 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 Sure.
So I jumped in. I joined my team, in the middle of the year,
Mm.
which had to catch up 5 months that are gone,
Sure, sure.
and go ahead. I can't tell you how much I cried, and that's part of the process. There, it was very difficult times. Plus, being in a country, new weather, new people, you don't know anyone, new system, a new school, and you are thrown on your own. It was a big challenge. It was a big, big, big challenge.
But being thrown into the midst of this challenge, that is when things are so hard to first figure out, second to adapt to, in your experience, and it's very obvious that you've had many different experiences with this particular situation in which you are thrown into the unknown, in which you have to figure things out, in which you have to learn from scratch. That is, you come with a certain experience, but then you have to learn something totally new and to like mold it to that particular experience. In your opinion, does that accelerate learning? Is it the only way sometimes to learn in a very, that is, this intense experience? Is it the only way to learn uh, quickly, effectively? This is the same that sometimes happens to me with sports. I feel like if I have an intensive workout, that's when it works. So, in your experience, is that it? Is this the solution to learning and mastering something when you are thrown in the midst of all of this chaos?
Very true. Very true. If you don't if you don't throw yourself in a pool of ice, you will never enter just looking at it.
Mm.
I believe in shocks. I like to be put in a shocking situation where you are going to immediate. Through yourself, if you're just waiting to learn first and do something, you will never do it.
Mm.
Throw yourself in the dirt. And then you will never learn swimming if you don't jump in the water.
Yeah, this is why I've never learned swimming.
So
This
you
is
can
me.
never. Yeah, you can never.
Yeah,
So it is the same thing.
it's the same thing. Yeah,
And
basically.
that I had that time is joining a team. It's my first time to be a head of department. Having a team of 12 teachers. 12 teachers from about 7, 8 nationalities.
Different nationalities at that.
Yeah.
Oh.
We have 50 nationalities in the school. It's a multicultural school. So the challenge is I need to understand them first. I have Filipinos, Indians, Pakistani, South Africans, Nigerian. I had a Tunisian, and I had British, I had American, I had Australians. How am I going to deal with every one of them?
Sure.
And they're all experienced teachers. And that was a big challenge, but that did not stop me. So it was a big challenge, but we worked as a team. So I always work on team building. So that's a key. And I learned these skills from project management.
Yeah.
How first to build your team, to build the trust, to build that sharing of knowledge. And we take it from there and we scaffold, we work together. So I'm being a support, being a leader, not a boss.
Yeah.
Perking ear, okay, being a hand instead of being a stick, okay, having enough carrots in your hands. So this is what that helped me build up and learn. So for me, it was working and learning at the same time.
At the same time.
There's no time.
And this is what this really throws us back to what we were talking about earlier, which is that idea of training. and professional development, having an experience, for example, wherever it is, in teaching or in management, is in itself a
Sure.
professional development, because you are learning as far as you put that in mind, that you are learning, which means that you can make mistakes, things can sometimes or do not work out as you want, but that is what we mean, I think, by learning. Now, um, you arrived in Kuwait. You talked about how the educational system um, is different. Now, you've had many experiences with different educational systems. Now you are still in Kuwait. You are working in a school, and what can you briefly say about the difference between the educational system in Algeria and in Kuwait in teaching and learning English? Because I don't want to perhaps to go into other things. We would probably go into a maze because the two systems are very different. But if we focus on teaching and learning English, what are your notes about the differences and perhaps the similarities?
Well, first of all, English in Algeria is taught as a foreign language,
Mm-hmm.
and English here is taught as a second language.
Second language.
Okay, English here is a medium of instruction.
Mm-hmm. It
Okay,
is in mathematics, for example, or in everything. Ah,
and
okay.
it's a daily life language in the
Mm.
street, in the markets, in the taxis, wherever you go, offices, whatever you do is in English.
Do Kuwaitis use English in their everyday
Yes,
life? They do?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
I didn't know
yes. So
that. I didn't know that.
yes, you can survive with only English 24 hours on 24 hours, seven days a week. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of an somehow back to L1 language.
Mm, mm.
So KG, even from kindergarten, everything is in English. So Arabic is as a subject. It's
Okay.
not as a medium. So Arabic as is just a subject. They study Arabic as a subject.
They study Arabic as a subject, that is, at primary schools, they do not use Arabic to learn
No,
mathematics or science or
no,
geography. They use English. This is at public
no.
schools and at
This,
the private schools.
this is
All.
private schools, private international schools. Public schools, they use Arabic.
They use Arabic.
Yes, government
Okay.
schools.
Okay.
Okay, but international schools,
International schools, they use only English.
they're only in English. So
Okay.
English is a kid of 3 years old speaks in English. So
Hmm.
English, you okay. So for example, in high school, we don't teach, we don't use a course book. It is a novel based. Middle school is a novel based. So a grade six, which is first year middle school in Algeria,
Mm-hmm.
we teach through a novel. They have to
Mm.
read a semester, and from that novel, we analyze, we teach grammar, we teach writing, all from that novel. So it is a
Mm.
novel. So yes, it is a completely two different systems. So
This is different. This is different. Perhaps even the
yes,
comparison does not apply here.
yeah,
Even the
no,
comparison doesn't really apply here because these are two different contexts. And it is, I think, well integrated also in the economy, right?
yes,
English. It is the language of the economy there.
yes, of everything. In English is a medium of instruction for everything.
Hmm.
Everything.
Hmm.
Hospital, you go to the doctor, everything
And at the university, they use English as a medium of instruction as well.
as well. So everything is in English. So that's why it's a different context
It is a
for
different context in this
yeah
sense.
for Algeria. So that's why it is a big challenge now. After hearing about introducing English now in the primary school in Algeria. There's a big talk about this.
Yeah, I'm coming to that question. I have a question for you concerning that. So I'm coming to that question. And before we go there, just a word about, is there an Algerian community in Kuwait?
There was a very, very, very small community. There are
It is very small.
few cats only.
Okay. And most of them are in which sector? Is it oil and gas?
Yes. So our community here is like very, very small, and they are all like the elite in everything. So
Okay.
we have pilots,
Mm-hmm.
we have professors.
Mm-hmm. At the university.
Professors at the university. We have doctors.
Mm-hmm.
We have oil and gas. Teachers, we have very, very, very few.
Okay.
Very few.
Okay.
Yes, we don't have.
So
that
it's
much,
it's a small community there.
Yeah.
P- My next question there about Kuwait is really about, and it's linked to this, about professional life there. How is the professional life there? Now you've again worked at different markets, if you want, in Algeria with the British Council, in Saudi Arabia. Now you are in Kuwait. How is the professional life in Kuwait? Is it like based like in Algeria? It's more or less public for the most part. We have an emergence now of the private sector. But how is the professional life in Kuwait? Is it mostly private or international companies or?
It's mostly private because for public, it's almost for Kuwaitis, and it is a small community for Kuwaitis. It's less than a million.
Less
we
than
have
a million, yeah.
3 million expats.
Yes, it's more than the yeah.
You see what I mean? So it is a big private market. Okay, it is a big private market. But the good thing here in Kuwait, in the private market, is the strongest takes it. Show me what you can do.
Sure. So it's all about competence, about are you competent?
Yes.
You have the skills.
What skills? And as well, you have to stand out of the crowd. How you are from others. What can you bring to my institute than others? What is special in you? So this is the key. So any skill you have to add it to your CV. Every skill matters. Any extra language you learn, it is a plus. Any experience you gained, it is a plus.
Sure. And here, let me just ask you a question that would, with which we would end this portion about immigration. Part of the reason you said you decided to immigrate back when you were in Algeria is when you had that moment of, let's call it epiphany, when you were thinking at night and you decided to send that email, and you said that a big part of why you made that decision is because you felt like you were not learning something new, that you've ticked all the boxes in Algeria, and so you saw no opportunity to grow. Now, how has your experience, or how have your experiences in Saudi Arabia and then in Kuwait, how have they helped you grow? How have they helped you reach your potential? And how do you see your career now in Kuwait, for example? I know that you've had a new job since 2021, a new school. So this is your second school. This is not the first one, right? right? Yeah. So how has your experience now in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia, uh, helped you reach your potential and perhaps even more?
Okay, I always see a job that I do. I always so I look at it very near into detail, and that's at the same time I link it to my long vision. How can this
Sure.
serve my okay? So in Saudi Arabia, when I had 1 year of technical English, and then I said, when I looked at it, it will not serve if I stay 1 year or 5 years in that technical English will not help me grow, will give me
Mm,
the same outcome.
mm.
There's nothing beyond. So
So you
saving
look at
time and
it in terms of where do I see myself in 5 years
yes,
in this?
yes,
Okay,
because my to grow, I don't have time to waste to
sure,
stay in position.
sure,
I need to work hard, learn more, scaffold, build on it, grow, promote,
sure.
and then start from scratch,
Hmm.
build, okay, and grow. So for me, it was that 1 year is more than enough to move forward.
Sure.
So that so Saudi Arabia gave me the chance to be placed at the international level
Mm,
because I received an international and overseas contract. So that an overseas contract that means I am now competing at the international level for any other country
yeah, I
on my
see
CV.
now.
So I because all my work in Algeria considered and counted as
Mm,
local experience. Any work you do, all the years you spend in your home country is counted as local experience.
mm,
Any year, at least if it is a month
mm.
out of the country,
Outside.
it is an international experience. So
So
that one,
once you tick that box, you can now go into more and have potential for other opportunities are opened for you.
yes. So now when anyone hires me, that we calculate this way. I have 7 years of experience as local, and I have
Hmm.
5 national experience.
Hmm.
You see what I mean?
I see. I see.
So,
I totally see. Yeah.
so I said that 1 year. So why do I spend more years in here where I have no chance to step forward?
Mm,
That what pushed me to leave the technical English because I don't see any potential beyond that 1 year. So that what I moved to Kuwait for schools. So 4 years as head of the English department in an American system, and then what comes next? Shall I say the whole of my life head of department?
mm,
Stay here of working on with my team of English teachers? No, I have to grow. And then I got my position as the curriculum coordinator, specialist in American curriculum for all subjects. So those 4 years of experience as head of English department gave me the insights and the ability to manage other subjects beyond with uh, in English. Why? Because what gave me this position? Because I took an initiative in my school, in my previous school as a head of
hmm,
department.
hmm.
I was given a task which I have never done in my life,
Mm,
but I did not say no. The head of admin of my school, she called me in and she said, I need you to sit with other subject departments, head of departments. I want you to make a curriculum map. A curriculum map is to sit with all other subjects, sit together, and map the topics and the skills and the standards together. For example, week one. In English, I have a unit about, I have a text to read or story about volcanoes. Science department, can we link in physics volcanoes?
mm.
Oh, yes. So put it, move it from week 6 to week 1. So it
Mm.
will match my week in
Yeah, yeah.
English. Math. What are you measuring? Are you measuring width or length or whatever? Can you use a volcano as an example in your math exercises? Yes, put that task for that skill. Arts. What are you doing? For example, the art, she said, well, I'm doing like primary colors and secondary colors. Can you use volcano as a sample to paint primary colors? And yes, I'll do that. Okay. So on and so forth. So then we plan the whole year. For every week, the student is linking the subject. So he read in English about volcanoes. He saw volcanoes in science, and he's used volcano in math. So this is what we call curriculum mapping.
Yeah, wonderful.
So this helped me to have an overview of the whole curriculum and how it is mapped.
Mm.
So when I got my new position in my new school as a curriculum coordinator, they took me because of this task that I did.
That you've had at that school.
So that I'm able to manage and map all the subjects, not just English, together to give you a holistic, complete, effective curriculum that the student will benefit from.
Mm.
We have horizontal mapping and we have vertical mapping.
Vertical.
Horizontal mapping is to map all the subject with one grade level. Vertical mapping is to map all the curriculum from kindergarten to high school.
Mm.
So you see how the vision is? So when I had the interview and I had the task and the writing task to go through, this was the main task that I've been asked to do.
Mm.
Explain to us, how are you able to map, for example, math skills from kindergarten to grade 12?
Mm.
How can you map the grammar skills from kindergarten to grade 12?
And this is exactly how it's supposed to be, and this is exactly what any curriculum should be for. It's in order to have a set of goals and then a set of objectives that serve those goals, and then the objectives would, of course, translate into practices and into content that would mirror really the whole thing. And that would lead me, in fact, to a question that we said we'll address a bit later on, and I think it's time for that, which is English at primary schools in Algeria. Now, the question, and of course the controversy and the debate right now in Algeria, is that this has not been prepared. This has not been mapped. Now, Abdurrahim is an expert by now in mapping, in having like a sort of vision. So how do you see the integration, the introduction of English at primary schools in Algeria? And is there room in the future for like redeeming or addressing the shortcomings that we certainly have now? These shortcomings are the fact that English is not well integrated yet into the other levels, that is secondary school or middle school, lack of training for teachers, etc., etc. So how do you see that?
Well, first of all, there's a big difference in working with our feelings. We take actions with our feelings, or we take with logic.
Mm.
I'm not against having English in the primary school or moving to an English setting.
Mm.
Fine. But let's be logical. Since now about half a year since we heard that English will be in primary school, I wish and I hope someone from this committee who is working on it come and speak and tell us.
Mm.
Is English in the primary school now would be integrated as an EFL or ESL?
Mm.
We need to understand. If it is an EFL, you cannot take out French. So we will have ESL, French, because it is medium of instruction for science and math.
Mm.
So we cannot replace it by English. It cannot. By logic, it cannot. So you cannot take French from, otherwise you will end up with a generation that having English, Arabic, science is gone. They don't know how to study science with. Okay, so they have to map it really well. Second question is, if they are going to implement English as a second language to replace French, then English has to be from kindergarten, not from grade 3. Now, this leads us to another question. I'm going to answer you with questions only, that I hope that experts from the ministry will answer these questions. Now, if you are creating a curriculum, on what standards and basis you are going to create it? What determines what level of English you are determining for grade 3? Is it alphabets and numbers, numeracy? Are you going to move to verbs, and are you going to use it communicative approach through dialogues? Question. Now English is middle school, right? Middle school, they start with. Now, I want this committee to have a 5-year vision to come to the public, because these are the kids of people, parents. As a parent, know my kid. Are you planning with vision or with your hearts? Give me your. Now, if you are going to take the alphabet in grade 3, then in middle school, are you going to change the curriculum?
That's not a problem. And this is why we were talking about this being consistent. And you were talking about having this mapping from primary school to middle school to high school. And it seems now that there is a huge gap, like there is a gulf between what's happening in primary school, what's happening in middle school, and even what's happening in middle school and secondary school, which are supposed to be close and a bit more consistent in terms of what they are learning and teaching. You can obviously see that there is a repetition of things that they have already seen, that they are teaching again. Yeah, it's a big problem, yeah.
Because there's no curriculum coordinator.
Yes.
This is the job of the coordinator. Because every teacher on grade level, and that's it. But the curriculum role is to have that thread and go from grade level to grade level. And don't tell me that the ministry is planning for grade 3 only next year. I need the successful curriculum is it has to be to grade 12 حتى الترمينال till grade.
Yeah, totally.
The whole curriculum on the table.
Yes.
And we start implementing year per year. And then what happens? When I have the completely set up, then what I do, I'm going to do my 5-year plan, which is evaluating, amending, changing, and improving. Then I put this year, and then next year, I'm going to evaluate what the things that happened, where what did not, how am I going to improve? You tweak, then push it for grade 4, and then combine the two, compare the two. Where is the gap? What happened to students from grade 3? What are the challenges when you go went to grade 4? What kind of skills that I need so can prepare them for grade 5? You see what I mean? So I can't see anything from the ministry till now. There's no vision. There is no clear curriculum. And again, what kind of curriculum am I bringing? Are you bringing American curriculum, British curriculum, French curriculum, and Algerian curriculum?
None of that is clear. Yeah.
So this is the thing. So
it seems like it's fits and starts. Like this is going to go day by day, which is not very surprising. But this is, as you have said before, these are future generations. This is the fate of the country, because education is the fate of the country. These are future generations. And so, as you said, we'd like to see English at primary school level, but we also would like to see that done in the right way. Well,
Yes.
I'm sure that this particular subject will take a whole episode because it's very complex. So I want to, without further ado, go to my before the last question, which is about Abdurrahim, the poet and the storyteller. Tell us about that. I don't know about that. I don't know about this uh,
Well,
side of you.
storytelling is one of the good things that I love. It's kind of a passion, and it is back to British Council time. I used to organise kids read events at British
Oh,
Council.
you did?
Yes, and there were events and read for fun events as well, where I used to bring storytellers from the UK and go into different wilayas. I went to Constantine to
Oh,
schools.
nice.
I went to Algiers, so I went to Bijaya, I went to Annaba, where I took storytellers and we read stories for kids in schools with the Ministry of National Education. So I love that setting, and I have a good contact with a group international. This is an international group of poets
Mm.
and storytellers. So I love that, and then I took it from there. So I used to read stories, and when I and it was like just a passion. And then when I joined my first school here in Kuwait, then I wanted to introduce reading, because kids, they don't read in the Arab culture. So I wanted to make reading fun for them. So I introduced the storytelling sessions
Mm.
for primary kids. So I used to give storytelling sessions, so tell stories for kids in the classroom. So I have a whole setting that we sit on the floor, on a carpet. We have cushions and pillows all around, colors and big stories, and sometimes I put my own storytellers costumes, and we enjoy. Kids laugh, and then we discuss the story. So I used to help teachers, okay, on pushing kids to read. So then sometimes I read the story, sometimes the student will read the story, sometimes we create a story, we make up a story. So there are
Mm.
different techniques on doing that. So it was a plus, it was an activity for the school. So that's why I told you, you have to have something special in you, so people they hire you for,
Sure.
not just not just the certificate of graduation. That's not enough. Well, how are you different from someone else? How are you different? What can you bring me differently to my school that someone else does not bring? So this is one of the things. And with my new school as well, the same thing. So we have the character day.
Mm.
We have days like character days, colors day, spring day, earth day, all these kind of days. So during the character day, I plan, though I'm curriculum coordinator, but I'm in charge of this event, so I wanted to do it myself. So I dressed up as Joha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have pictures on Instagram and all the stuff. So I dressed up completely different, with a white beard. I'm a completely different person. And the students, I chose a grade 5 students. So they're all dressed up in their own favorite costume character. So we have Tom and Jerry, you have all different types of characters they have in the stories. We sat and read them stories, and we took pictures, we discussed the stories, so they loved that character. So everyone lived the character of that story. So it was really nice. So I'm doing it frequently, twice a year, 3 times a year in a school where I am. And yes, so for poetry, it's something that I like to read. So that's why this year I organized, because I am the head of English department at the same time. So curriculum coordinator, but in charge of the English department. So I had poetry nights in my school.
Okay, good.
So because I am I have the full, with American system. The head of department has all the authority to shift units as long as I keep the standards. So the standards are there, but this year, what I said, for quarter 3, all the teachers of English from grade 6, middle and high school teachers, that quarter 3, we teach poetry. Okay, so we stop the novel, we finish the novel, and then we teach poetry. So we teach all the genres of poetry, and at the same time, we teach them how to write poetry. So they try to write poetry. So, and then we did like kind of a competition, with selection, and then we organized a night for poetry where parents are invited, popcorn, tea, the lights, and then we all taught them how to, you have to snap and not clap. So it was kind of a very nice setting with a very nice decoration, and then the kids, they shared their beautiful poems that they wrote. Beautiful, and I shared some of my poems as well. So poetry is not necessary to be a professional poet, is to be able to express yourself, your thoughts.
Sure, it's before all, I think it's a passion. You have to love poetry to read poetry in the first place, and then to write it, then you have to be really passionate about it, not in the sense of being a professional poet, but just as you have said, to express yourself. But when you were talking about how back when you were at the British Council, you used to bring these storytellers from the UK and used to go to different cities. When you were talking about that, something came across my mind is, where is the British Council now in Algeria?
Oh, well, that's a big question that unfortunately, I have no answer for that. I can only speak about British Council when I was entitled and
because it's totally absent. I was like, the other day we were talking about this with a friend of mine. I said, I think that they were very active for many years, but then something weird happened. Is it because of Rahim? Rahim immigrated, and so there's no one to organize and keep things active. I don't know. We were talking about this the other day, and it's a big mystery for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it is really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.
It is.
We had beautiful days, and we achieved a lot of things, and but unfortunately, I had to take a different path in my life, and but unfortunately, no one took the lead for that, which is really unfortunate.
It is, and they have, as I said, completely disappeared. Well, if you can hear us through this podcast, British Council, hey, come back. Be more active. So my last question. What is your advice to the young?
Okay. It's a very good question. For anyone who is fresh graduates, okay, just graduating next year, or there are 3 key elements or principles you have to put in your head. Nothing comes easily. This is number 1. They have to understand that nothing will come easily. Okay. Number 2, never be afraid of anything. If you don't try, you will never learn. If you don't throw yourself, you will never swim. Don't let the worry of the future stop you from what you're doing now. Number 3, planning, and being aware. You have to be aware of what you are doing now. You have to be aware of your surrounding. You have to have a vision. You have to be aware of what is coming next. What shall I select? What kind of flowers that I need to pick from different gardens to put in my bouquet? What kind of colors that I need for my tableau. The same thing. Everything, our lives is a beautiful tableau. It's a beautiful painting. It's a beautiful garden. The same thing as you select, you have to select for your career. You have to know what you need to do. Don't tell me I live day by day. Don't tell me that, oh, we'll see what comes next. No. Plan, 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 plan. Planning will save you time. Plan will save you energy. I know sometimes things come like, okay, in sudden, or like, for example, Kuwait, it is not in my plan, but Qatar was in my plan, but the same objective and vision. When Kuwait came, I don't mind changing the path because I'm reaching the same goal that I want to reach. You see what I mean?
And you have to be flexible sometimes.
Yes, there's no harm in being flexible and changing your plans. Fine, but at least there should be a plan.
Sure.
So it should be a plan that I can tweak later.
True.
Okay, so be flexible and never stop learning. Learn from everything. Just between brackets, when I was at the university, I used to work in a building workshop. A monouvre. Okay, I did all the dirt work, but fine. But all that helped me other skills in life. Anything that you do will help you. So, what I was going to say is, please, 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 they have to know what's happening in the world, not just what's happening locally. So they have to start having those international standards, see what's happening in the world. Then just walking on your, I always believe in shoot for the moon. If you miss it, you land among the stars. So always aim for something high. At least if you miss that, you land among something better. Okay.
That's a beautiful metaphor, and I think that this is going to motivate a lot of young Algerians who sometimes, especially after they graduate, they see that there are no opportunities, and I hope, of course, we were talking about learning, this constant learning that they have to go through. I hope that this podcast, and particularly this episode that we've had today with you, is going to be part of their learning experience, that is learning about your experience, your struggles, how you have achieved a certain professional level, a certain expertise in, for example, now in curriculum, which is not something that you have started with, but that you have achieved, and you have achieved a recognition so that you are now recruited as that. And I believe in leading by example, and I think that your of course career and your example is a very nice way to show all of what we have talked about today. Abdurrahim, thank you very much. This was a wonderful episode. And last word.
Oh, thank you. I would like to thank you so much for this initiative. It's really beautiful, and thank you for helping and motivating the young generation and the fresh graduates. It's really great initiative. Please don't stop. Keep up the good work you do. You are doing an amazing job, and thank you so much for the invite again.
Thank you so much, Abdurrahim. Thank you for doing this. Hey, thank you very much for watching. If you are listening, thank you very much for listening, and I'll meet you inshallah in the next episode. Bye.